Hi everyone, it's Sandy, and today I'm doing a book discussion on A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. For some quick non-spoiler thoughts, this book did start off pretty slowly, but after like 100 or 150 pages, the story starts to pick up, and that was when I started getting really invested into the story. One of my favorite things about this book is Feyre's character development. I'll talk more about that when I start talking about spoilers, but I really love seeing who Feyre was at the very beginning of the story and seeing the character that she has become by the very end. I really love the introduction of new characters, and I really love where the plot is going. Seeing what happens in this book makes me super excited for the next one. Overall, I really enjoyed this book and I give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. So now I'll be talking about spoilers, so if you haven't read this book, you should X out of this video, but if you have and you want to know more about my thoughts, then keep watching. Spoilers starting now. I'm going to put the book down because it's pretty big and I don't want to keep holding it like this in my arm and just hurting my wrist the entire time. It's been like a week and a half since I finished A Court of Mist and Fury, and I didn't take notes while I was reading because I wasn't planning on filming a discussion video or a review, but there's just so much that I want to talk about, so I decided to film a discussion video. The story begins with Feyre at the Spring Court, and throughout the first like 50 pages or so, you can clearly see her being suffocated by everything that's happening. She's constantly being restricted by Tamlin, and you can see that it has a mental and physical toll on her. So I'm just going to immediately say that in the first book, I was totally team Tamlin. I just loved Tamlin and Feyre together. Tamlin was the beast, Feyre was the beauty. I wasn't 100% sure that Tamlin and Feyre were endgame because of Rhys's character. I knew that Rhys would have a much bigger role in A Court of Mist and Fury, but I wasn't team Rhys at the point that I started this story. Once you read the first 100 pages, even the first 50 pages, you see that Tamlin just isn't the right person for Feyre, and I really love the way that Sarah J. Maas dealt with Feyre's evolving relationships and how she explored the topic that your first love may not always be your last love. My friend Elena from Got Books recently uploaded a video about this topic of Feyre's evolving relationships, and I thought it was a really great video, so I'm going to link it below. I really love all the points that she brought up in that video. This whole book gives a lot of Shatter Me vibes. But what I really love about this book compared to Shatter Me is that Sarah J. Maas didn't destroy Tamlin's character just so Feyre could be with Rhys. I felt really frustrated with Tamlin's character, mainly because I did really like his character in the first book, but you really see the flaws in his character. He was very possessive and he was very controlling about everything in her life. I personally think that all of Tamlin's actions were actions that were a part of his character, and you see bits and pieces of that in A Court of Thorns and Roses. And after seeing Feyre die and then come back to life in the first book, that really changes a person. In a way, I understand why Tamlin was being so possessive, but it's not right and I don't like that. So again, I really like that Sarah J. Maas didn't just make Tamlin this like bad guy just so Rhys could be with Feyre. Throughout the book, you see Feyre struggling with her feelings for Rhys. She's constantly calling herself a traitor every time she sees that she's starting to have feelings for Rhys. She feels like she's betraying Tamlin, and it takes quite a while before Feyre and Rhys were actually together, and I really love the slow build and the angst between Rhys and Feyre throughout the entire book. I especially love their snarky banter. I always love it when couples have these types of banter, and it's just so cute, and I'm constantly rooting for them to like finally make out or something. Like I said earlier, I was team Tamlin before I read this book. Although I was really against it at first, I was not surprised to see where the romance headed. Now that I finished the book, I'm really happy with what happened. I especially love the relationship between Feyre and Rhys. Their relationship consisted of respect, trust, and support. I love that Rhys saw Feyre as an equal and not as someone who's inferior to him. I just loved everything about the relationship and seeing it develop throughout the entire book. I feel like it's been a while since I felt so strongly about a couple, and Feyre and Rhys are definitely one of my new favorite OTPs. One of the scenes that I really wanted to talk about was the Weaver scene, where Feyre had to sneak into the Weaver's house and steal an item that belonged to Rhys. I could easily picture it while I was reading it. It was like a scary movie scene where someone is like creeping into the house. It's dark. I can't remember if it was actually dark, but then there's some old lady singing. That was just really creepy, and it was really intense the second that Feyre got the ring and she was trying to make her way out of the house. I think Feyre's character development was wonderful. There are some really great quotes throughout this book that shows Feyre accepting what she has gone through and learning how to deal with it. I also really love that the story had to do with self-discovery and just seeing the woman that she has become by the end. I love the introduction of new characters, Cassian, Azriel, Amryn, Mor. Although we were already introduced to Rhys's character, I really loved learning more about him and his backstory. I wasn't the biggest fan of Reese's character in ACOTAR, but in this book, his character is fleshed out and he truly shines in this book. There are so many reasons why I love Reese, but to name a couple, I love that he lets Feyre make her own choices, and again, I love that he saw Feyre as an equal because I think that's so important in relationships. I love that all of the characters are so complex and they all have their flaws. That's one thing that I really love about Sarah J. Maas's characters. They're not perfect and I love reading about them and seeing their development throughout the story. So now I'm going to jump to the part where we find out that Tamlin has been teaming up with Hybern. Once Feyre went back to the Night Court for good and said her goodbyes to the Spring Court, I was wondering when Tamlin and Lucien would show up again. With Tamlin, I did not expect that he would be teaming up with Hybern. That was really insane, and it really shows the lengths that Tamlin would go through just so he can have Feyre. It shows how possessive he was, and I really hope that Tamlin does find someone that he loves and that truly loves him back, and that he isn't behaving the way he is with Feyre. Although I don't like Tamlin as much as I did in the first book, I still don't hate his character, and I really do want a happy ending for him by the end of the series, as long as he's not behaving the way he is. Cassian and Nesta totally saw it coming the second that they met, and I was shipping them throughout the story, but Lucien and Elaine, that I totally did not see coming. I'm very interested to see how those ships play out in the next book, especially considering the fact that Lucien and Elaine are mates. The whole ending in general was just so intense. When Hybern started to break the mating bond between Feyre and Rhys, I was just like, no, this can't be real. But luckily it was just a bargain and not the actual mating bond. So when we found that out, that was just like a complete sigh of relief. And now Feyre is back at the Spring Court. Lucien is very suspicious of Feyre by the end of the story. Lucien was my favorite character in the first book, and I'm really sad about his character in this book. I really wanted more of him, but the scenes that we got with him, I just wasn't having it. You see that Lucien does try to help Feyre, but his loyalty to Tamlin is much stronger than that. Hopefully by the end of the series, we also get a happy ending for Lucien. I want a happy ending for all the characters. I really like how the story left off, but it also makes me really nervous because Tamlin still thinks that Feyre is in love with him, so she has to keep up the facade in order to be a spy on the inside. Those are my thoughts on A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. Let me know your thoughts on this book in the comments below. There's a lot that happens in this book that I obviously didn't cover. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing my thoughts, and I will see you next time. Bye!